Alright, let's try this again. This time with less power outages. Okay. What were we fucking doing? I guess we were on downtown. So I guess we'll go back to downtown. Interesting, I lost my kit for that. Huh. So very curious. I usually thought, like, when your game crashed, like, or I guess it's only, I guess probably you only keep it the game actually crashes, I guess? I don't know. But take two. Not that, 50 cal, there we go. We'll bring our emergency shotgun for cyborgs, not to restore you. Hold on, I gotta talk to Aramaki. Alright, Aramaki. There we go. Wait, it's not, it's Grillo, I forgot. Can never make any sense of who sells frickin' what in this game. Anyway, because like the AA-12 is used by cyborgs, but Grillo sells it, so yeah. Alright, throw you on there. Alright, how am I on meds? Meds. I'm great on meds. Alright, back to downtown. Alright. Shaders again? My god. Just fucking cast the shaders. Stop making me do this every raid. Anyway. So, like, the context, I guess, is like, we came from this way, right? So what if we go back this way? What do you mean there's a minefield here? I came from this way. What the hell? I liked it. I mean, so the gunplay is pretty good. Like the weird issues, I think, like that. I played a lot more Battlefield 6 over the weekend. It was very hit or miss. I guess it felt like it was the servers maybe struggling here and there with registration on Battlefield 6. Like, the gunplay was good. And I think that, like, when it worked, like, the gunplay felt really good. I think there was just a few server issues here and there. Time to kill was fast. I wouldn't... It's fast, but it's also that weird thing with team games too, right? Where, like, I don't know. It's not that fast though, Roofer, because if you're in a team fight, like, a fast time to kill would mean that you can spray down multiple people before they can react and, like, team kill you, right? Like, team kill in the sense of, like, as a squad, they're fighting you and killing you. Like, if you get the drop on a squad in Battlefield 6, like, say, 1v4, you can kill probably about 2 of them before the other turn to kill you back. Like, that's just how the time to kill in that game is. A faster time to kill would mean you could probably wipe that entire squad before they could do anything. And you can still wipe those squads, it just depends on how competent they are, but the gunplay is good. I think there's a big push on, like, how Battlefield 6 feels really fucking fast, and I do agree, or it feels very COD-y, Call of Duty-ish, and I think the main thing is that a lot of the things that you would typically have animations for in Battlefield 6 aren't there. So, like, entering or leaving vehicles, and just doing various things, right? Like, lots of things just go too quickly and have no period of, like, what's the right word for this? Like, of slowdown, right? It's a very, like, twitchy battlefield. And all battlefields are fairly twitchy, like, don't get me wrong, like, especially the modern ones, but, like, this one leans into it too much, and I think a lot of it's just the animations, right? The ability to hop in and out of a vehicle, like, instantly. I'm pretty sure in Battlefield 1, despite the fact that you were in animation when you get inside of tanks, you still have, like, I think your iframe when you're getting into tanks, right? Just that you're being able to react inside of the tank takes time. 100%. I do think there's quite a... I think the other big thing, too, is I think the damage drop-off is way, way too harsh too quickly. Because this is the reason why I think time to kill isn't that big of an issue. Is that, like, if you're fighting anyone at range, like, unless they're... You're gonna get players, right, who are just dumb and are gonna take fights even when they're disadvantaged. But for anyone who's not dumb, like, it has the Destiny 2 OG PvP problem, right? Where the time to kill is high enough at range, where if anyone ever feels like they're not winning the fight, they can go take cover and disengage from the fight before it ever, like, gets to the point of, like, they can lose. And you do have tools in Battlefield to get around that, like RPGs or grenades. But for the most part, like, I had lots of instances at long-range fights where, like, you know, you can get the drop on someone and they just take cover and then you're fucked. And they can be in the open for a long enough time, as long as they're not being dumb enough to, like, try to fight you back, you're not gonna kill them. And that's for a few different reasons, like accuracy, damage, but, like, the main thing is damage fall off is very aggressive. And, like, the guns that are supposed to be good at long range, they have low base damage. So, for example, like the AK-203 or 202, whatever it's called in the game, goes down to, like, 16, 17 damage, I think, at range. Which means you're like a 6 or 7 shot kill. Which is entirely possible to do, but still. Now, I will say, though, they do something that I really like when companies reinforce. There is a lot of bullet spread and deviation. Like, let me rephrase. Not a lot, but enough. There's enough bullet spread and deviation when you're spraying that it really rewards bursting and semi-auto, but it's still, like, full auto still has its place. Like, in short to medium range confrontations, you're almost still, like, always better off just full auto dumping, depending on the gun you have. But, like, if you ever get to medium to long range, going semi or going short bursts is very rewarding. Because, like, there's enough bullet deviation where after those, like, you know, 3-4 shots, you're gonna be far enough off your target to miss, but not by, like, a mile. Like, for example, the problem is in this game when you're shooting for a long period of time, the bullet deviation gets to the point where it feels unrealistic, right? I think they might have fixed this gun, though. This gun might be different now. Yeah, you need to go back to the LMGs. I think they're fixing it one by one with the guns. But the LMGs are a good example, right? If we bring out the saw. But there's, like, a lot of conal issues. But they have time to balance. I'm not sure how much they're, like, Battlefield has always been a game, right, where, like, the biggest thing, Roofer, is I would be much more concerned if they didn't have dedicated servers and custom servers. They're gonna have that, right? That's gonna be that's one of their main selling points, right? Is they're gonna have, like, a foundry for custom like maps and modes. They're gonna have a dedicated server browser, or at least they said they were going to. They didn't have it at beta, but they said they're gonna have one. So as long as they give those promises, I'm on board. Just because, like, I mean, whenever I play Battlefield 1, right, I'm not playing on stock servers. I'm always playing custom servers. Because I don't like the stock balancing. And that's the beauty of custom modes and servers, right? Is, like, you know, you can go find like-minded people playing a certain mode that you like. I mean, they're just kind of just giant mechs that shoot ATGMs. They're not, to be quite frank, like, it looked cool, but, like, It wasn't that special to me, in my opinion. Hey, Duffs. Thanks, the power went out. But now we are back. Like, I've only seen one once, and it was just kind of just like loitering in an area, doing kind of jack all. I kind of have an idea that, like, sure, it's a very rare Europa unit. I wonder how much of it, too, is them making sure it doesn't spawn very often, because it probably doesn't have a lot to it right now. I think it was, like, the old, like, they even said, I think, in the patch notes that it's work in progress, which they haven't done before for a unit. Like, considering they pushed the shield officer out without saying it's work in progress, and they put the Stiltwalker out saying it's work in progress, that seems like a pretty stark contrast there. I mean, if the thing is that they're going to add more maps that are of the current quality and size, I would say, I'm not really a big fan. Like, if their ideology is just having a bunch, like you know, as opposed to having like deep, interesting maps, having lots of maps, I guess sure. It's not really my shtick, but I mean, they even said though too in Q&As they can't really do that because the asset size, the file size would balloon. They mentioned 1.0 quite a few times in the Q&A. I mean, they didn't give any dates or anything. I imagine they would keep supporting the game after 1.0. Like even if they have a pretty firm end of life plan, no game usually stops at 1.0. There might be a content patch here and there. There might be like a fixed patch here and there, but 1.0 is never usually the end. I'm gonna go the other way. Like, so we can kind of, like, they've talked about consoles before. Whenever they push the console, that's when 1.0 is. Like, if they ever push the console and don't call it 1.0 for us, they're just kind of trying to, I think, change the they're just trying to hide the fact that they're 1.0. So whenever they ship to console in my book, that's when 1.0 is. And then, like, after that, we'll just have to see how much they support PC after that, and for how long. There's always that issue, for example, right, like, where doing validation for consoles is always a different story than just shipping out patches for PC. I think they only mentioned PS5 to my knowledge. In a very, like, I mean, I'm not saying not Xbox, but I'm pretty sure they mentioned console for PS5 a long time ago. I'm gonna lie about the dumpster for a bit, I guess. So you're telling me there's no good loot in this dumpster? Can't believe it. Roofer, no. I know you're just trying to goad me. That's wild that the same question comes in, like, literally after I just answer it. Anyway, 1.0, who the fuck knows? They mentioned it a lot in the Q&A. That's really about it. Hey, Delta. Not much, just playing around. No, I mean, like, that's 100% it. No, I mean, like, it is a startup with pals. Like, definitively. It would explain... God, this is gonna sound so fucking petty. A lack of professionalism. And I mean, that could be their point too. They don't want to be professional, or like, once again, this is me. This is probably not the right word for me to say, right? It's just that, like, there are certain things that I feel like they don't value, but they probably should. And part of that's communication. And when you lay off your CM, it's not a great look. Well, here's the thing, right? They have very much made it clear that there's technical constraints on why maps are not big. That is fair. My counterpoint to that is there's ways of getting around that. Like, I know everyone gives Starfield shit about loading screens, but there's a difference between Bethesda and small indie company. When there's small indie company, I think a lot of people are much more okay with the game having to use loading screens, as opposed to Starfield that was marketed as a space game where you could go down to planets and explore shit. Like, there's different paradigms at work here. It's okay for your indie game to use loading screens and loading areas for level design so that you can put more into a level while it's still feeling like the same level. It doesn't have to be a seamless open world. Loading screens are okay. Loading areas are okay. Now, if they take 3 minutes, that's a different story. But loading screens are okay. Yeah, no, like Half-Life loading screens, oh my god. Because everyone was still on spinners back in the day. Half-Life, if you ever played like Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2 is the worst. Half-Life 2, the loading areas on Half-Life 2 would literally take like 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, no, see, Roofer, that's an unfair comparison though, right? Because you're comparing a studio of 20 to 30 people with a studio that I think at one point had 1,000 employees. Like, that's a vastly unfair comparison. Also, time and money, too. Star Citizen's been in development for how long now, and has had how much money? Not a fair comparison. Also, keep in mind too, when Star Citizen first actually like had like a live demo for like, or like a build of the game you could play, the FPS and the performance was fucking atrocious. But you know what saved them, Roofer? You know, 3 to 4 more gens of graphics cards into the future. Like playing Star Citizen on 1080 or like a 10 series graphics card was fucking miserable. Santiago, if you really like the art and you really like the vibe of the game, and you're okay with just kind of, if you don't need a very deep game in regards to systems to enjoy it, I would say yes. Like, it's early access, the art's good, the music's good, the vibes are there. But if you're looking for like deep systems, if you're looking for like really engaging gameplay loops outside of like a basic looter shooter / extraction shooter, they're not there yet. But if you want to support the developers, if you really like the vibe of the game, if you really like the music, so on and so forth, yeah, shoot them $30.
Way too hot here. Keep low.
Yeah, I mean, like, that goes into the communication, Rodrigo. I'm sure they're concerned about doomers, but at the same time, the doomers are gonna doom no matter what you do, right?
Look for gaps. Maybe we can slip past.
Like, and like that's kind of the type of thing, for example, like Rodrigo, where I think a lot of goodwill can be garnered with transparency and honesty as opposed to subterfuge. I'm not saying it's as malicious as that per se. It just feels like they're intentionally keeping us in the dark, and I'm not sure if that's contempt or just what. Alright, time to skedaddle. There's Mr. Grooves. Yeah, I've seen that on my feed a few times. Never, like, pulled the trigger on it.
Maybe we can slip past. Another day, another dollar.
Oh no, like I've worked in tech before. I get the same vibes you're getting, to be honest. Like on one side, the monthly patch cadence is like, hey, really cool. Like you guys have this like streamlined, you can push out content or push out whatever you have in the pipeline pretty quickly, month-long patch cycles. But at the same time, like if they're gassing themselves, like it can't. When I see like a very quick cadence going on, I have to question kind of why, because you shouldn't necessarily be rushing yourself for you wouldn't. I don't see the reason why to rush yourself unless there's a reason to rush. And so seeing a monthly patch cadence just like questions like why are they rushing? Is it for and I'm not saying it's like the wrong choice. It could be for feedback, but like at the same time, we haven't really seen. I would personally say we haven't really seen all that much get responded to by feedback. Like the community had to bitch and moan about water for literally like 6 months for them to actually change it in a meaningful capacity. They tried other ways before, I will say, so like that's like kind of unfair for me to say. Like they did try water 2.0, which was still a miss. They tried a half measure before a full measure. I need to sit down and play Abiotic Factor. I think if a survival game is a fine medium, Roofer, but like it can't just be a survival game. If that makes sense, right? Like, if the only shtick you have going for you is that you're just a survival game, and you've like plastered your other game on top of it, like your setting, I don't think it will stand up. But like a game like Abiotic Factor does it really well because it's an SCP game with a underlying survival element to it. Or already go that like kind of goes to the point of like, yeah, Runaway, right? Like they don't have a publisher pushing them. They could have private investors pushing them. You are correct in that regard. Just because they don't have a publisher doesn't mean they can't have private equity. So there could be the money guy saying, hey, you know, X, Y, and Z. Or for example, if they're on loans, right, there could be a solid runaway, you know. But like that's why it's like, for example, why I say like 1.0 feels like it's soon, because the crunch cadence plus the versioning, just and like the lack of communication too, right?
Looks like we rolled snake eyes.
Leave me alone, no. Let me see if the M4 is the same way. So you can kind of see it there. The LMGs are worse, but you can kind of see how like the bullets are kind of turning to a circle after time. It does seem like they are fixing it though, which is nice. I still do think that, as I previously said before my power cut off, it does feel like, it doesn't feel like we're shooting bullets. But like, I will also admit too, like, to get the threshold to get to the point where like we're actually feeling like we're shooting, it might be a lot for them in regards to like to do. Because essentially what it means, right, is like there's a lot more polishing that needs to take place for all of the guns in the gunplay for them to actually feel like we're shooting bullets. And like there's not like a clear line of when that is. It's kind of just like, you know, keep polishing it, keep polishing it, keep polishing it until it finally gets there. And it might not be worth the effort. Oh no, Mr. Grooves, like 100%. Like, no, yeah. I've before the bridge was burned, I genuinely did try to like get them to like say their philosophy, and I didn't really get anywhere, to be honest. I got a bunch of like, I can't say too much here. Let's just say it feels like it's more homages to other games and genres as opposed to something foundational or concrete to them, if that makes sense. I don't want to say the word derivative because that's unfair, I think, too, because you can be transformative with derivative material. But like, there's definitely a blurred line there. It feels like more of cool shit the game as opposed to a concrete idea of what a game should be.
Christmas.
It was supposed to, so according to Rillo, it was supposed to be an art book, if I recall correctly. They never say that in their own marketing, so you have to go to a third party to actually understand that. But apparently this is supposed to be an art book first, and then they just made a game. And like, kind of in a way, Rodrigo, as we talked about earlier, it kind of felt like they were probably fucking around in UE5 for a bit with their ideas, and eventually had like some prototype, and like, let's make this into a game. Eureka. So like, they like, the lack of design doesn't like, I don't think they maliciously just like started making a game without like lack of design. They just kind of like accidentally made a game and then just kept going without ever doing design. And so they're just going by their pants. Wherever the fucking phrase is. Leave me alone. Like, in a way, it feels... in a way, you know what it feels like? It feels like there's like latency to the guns, right? So like we're seeing, like there's a massive delay between like when we're seeing the recoil before we're seeing the projectile spawn and that head out and hit a target. That could be strictly velocity too. It's also the fact that I think they're better now. But I do think the tracers are probably too egregious. But that is design though, Mr. Grooves. Like, blending systems together is design. Like, you know, making a wheel, sure, is design. Like, or designing a wheel is design. Designing a chassis is design. Designing an engine is design. But putting those together to make something, to make a final product is also design. I disagree, actually. I think the way they've done it, Mr. Grooves, at least the way it seems like they've done it, is they'll have a cool idea for a part without any consideration on how that goes into the whole or what the whole even looks like. They didn't start with we want to make a car. They started with let's make a wheel, an engine, and a you know, suspension, you know, a brake, and then let's put them together without consideration on the whole. And it's why everything feels so disjointed and everything just kind of falls apart. Oh, Mr. Grooves, yeah, 100% you on the projectile. Like the guns and the projectiles don't feel attached, and like, yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, Rodrigo, in a way it feels like it's like they just saw a bunch of stuff from like other genres or games they enjoyed and just wanted to like put that into their game without any considerations. And like it goes into the whole, like, once again, like a bunch of friends and no one wants to be the fun police when you're among friends. Which is it's a perfectly fair consideration, right? It's like why I mentioned earlier I was once again, this is gonna sound really fucking harsh, but it is what it is. A lack of professionality. I mean, they serve their purpose. I mean, like, doesn't mean they feel good. Doesn't mean the gunplay is interesting. We have blood. If guns were like a last resort and not to be leaned on, sure. But when you put 44 guns in your game with hundreds of attachments and make everything contextualized through your gunplay in your game, you're kind of doing yourself no favors, I feel like.
Just what I always wanted.
Oh, 100%, Rodrigo. I'm not an artist. I am way more systems designed. Even when I'm doing creative work, like the way I do my creative work is very systemic. I wouldn't even go as far as to say that, Rodrigo. It's them making a product they want to make. Like, this is, I'm guessing them, like, this is them wanting to make the game they wanted to make, right? And, like, this is a weird, like, not philosophical thing, but it's more in the sense of, yes, like, if you just want to make your creative game and not give a shit what your audience thinks, that's perfectly fair. But don't give the guys that you do. And if you do, then do. Like, I like, once again, just don't, like, you can be picky. I don't know. There's always so much nuance and shit like this. It's hard to actually gauge.
Burn, baby, burn.
Like, yes, you can be picky about what feedback you're receptive to also, but I feel like you can be honest about that also too. I don't know, whenever we get to it, it's kind of just communication breakdowns, right? Of just like, hey, if you were transparent and honest and just like clear what you wanted and what you were looking for, I think none of this would happen. Everything would be crystal clear. It's like, hey, we're looking for only X, Y, and Z feedback. We don't really care about X, like, we're not gonna fix X, Y, and Z because that's our creative vision. Like, in the grand scheme of things, like, my original pain point with IRL water wasn't that, it was, like, I don't hate the concept of IRL water, but I think how they marketed the game was not fair to that, right? And, like, if they marketed this game like really heavily leaning into the IRL water, saying, hey, this game isn't for everyone, but we know we're making a game with like that's gonna be like kind of like, you know, Animal Crossing-esque, where it's IRL timer, it's oppressive, it's so on and so forth, and they were crystal clear, they would have avoided a lot of the negative feedback about IRL water, because people wouldn't have fucking bought the game then if they weren't into that system. And that was always my core issue with water, right? Is they didn't push that narrative with their game marketing wise. And so they pushed out a game that, like, you know, had a bunch of people now who were invested in the game who were like, what the hell is this system? Why is this an offline PvE extraction shooter and we're being punished for this? Like, this is supposed to be a casual friendly game. I think that was the biggest issue. Like, I would have been fine with water, IRL water drain. It would have been draconian, but that would have been like the design philosophy of the game, right? It's like we were making a draconian type of game, right? That's, you know, it's gonna be for a niche audience, but, you know, it's gonna be in, you know, we're gonna have that integrity there. OJ, Buck, my power went out. I actually know, Rodrigo, the IRL water timer you wouldn't know it existed until you, like, the only marketing material I engaged with this game before buying it is Fundog's own promotional material. I did not watch Rillo at all until afterward. And so, like, I went into the game and then learned the IRL timer was a thing. So, like, they did not market the IRL timer as a pitch for them. Is that the scrapyard one, Guns? I think it's I think it's a problem. It's a loose item, if I recall correctly. Wait, what do you mean, Mr. Grooves? Wait, what? What servers? There's no servers exist in this game.
Bad luck today.
If I recall correctly, Guns, it's right in front of the mech. If you're looking toward the mech, it's gonna be on the left-hand side, like on I think on just a on top of a crate. It's a loose item, so it's really hard to fucking see. It's really small. Yeah, no, 100%. Like, yeah. I like my main critique. Come on, get out of here, banned. All right, banned. Like, that's always my main critique. Obsidian too, in a sense. Oh no, sorry, not Obsidian. Rodrigo is like, yeah, like, I cannot fault them for what other creators say, but I can fault them for what they market their game as. And I think their marketing is kind of not great. Not from like a selling standpoint, but from a promising the player an experience standpoint. I'm not saying those players won't have those experiences temporarily. They might not. but it does the whole marketing shtick of, you know,
Waiting for this.
building something up that ain't there. You had to place it on top, did you? Leave me alone. No, stop it. Go away. MK. I guess just move around a bit and try it again. I haven't tried it in a while. Maybe I'll go try it after this. Wait, Mr. Grooves, I'm very confused right now. Are we talking about the old system of water? Are we talking about the current system of water? Also, it's so very dark in here, I can't see shit. If it's dark for you, it's dark for me. But there wasn't entry costs in the old water. The maps were free. So the only thing was the IRL water drain. Oh no, it's had lightning for every it's always had lightning, the red lightning, off in the background in the sky. If I can see one, there we go. Yeah, so if you're referring to that, it's always had that. I mean, I would love for that to be the case, Bob. But I feel like after, I mean, I'm not saying they're not, but after 10 months, we haven't... I'm not saying their patches are nothing, but at 10 months, we've never really had a patch that's broken the paradigm of like a little bit of extra content and a new map, and that's about it. I wouldn't say there's like they are adding content matches, like it's maps and quests and stuff like that, but like we have yet to see like outside of Water 3.0, and I the problem is I wouldn't even call Water 3.0 like a systems rework. It kind of is, but like it's a systems rework without any of the bones of a systems or actually I guess the bones, not any of the meat of a systems rework. Like, the core is there now. Hello.
I've been waiting for
No.
this.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. There we go. We're good. I said no. You can definitely see the obsidian.
Not a bad deal.
I mean,
Time to drag it back.
Bob, I'm not saying they're not, but like, they haven't done anything to inspire confidence yet. I'm not saying they're not working on it, right? But I am waiting for that
Just what I always
that big content patch then, or that big systems rework. Thanks, Axe. Appreciate it. Swamp is bigger than EM, 100%. It's not even close. EM isn't that big. Mesa is bigger than EM. EM is actually quite small. EM seems bigger than it is because EM has a lot of width, but it's not very like length. There's not a lot of length to it. Yeah, Elephant's very small. Elephant's smaller than National Mesa. Elephant's smaller than Prison Swamp. Elephant's bigger than, I would say, Mech Trench 100%, but it's not bigger by a lot. Like Mr. Grizz was saying, Elephant does a great job making it feel bigger than it is. It is a trench line. I wish there was more to the trench line, but I digress. Let's bring some grenades in. I have a solution to all problems. See you, Grooves. Listen, I don't use grenades enough, okay? We're fixing that. I'm using all my grenades in one raid. That's kind of what I get to, Rodrigo, is the maps, like, I want to make it very clear. It's not that maps are too small, it's that they have no depth. And yes, in a way you can say, well, that is just making maps bigger, just with more content inside. It's like, yes, but it's different. Like, expanding the area and doing what you're doing does not fix the underlying issue of the map. You need to add depth. You know, I didn't actually think about the whole drone issue with the lack of bullets. I said I didn't think about it, so then you stop it. Are we good? Are we good? Yeah, Fun Dog took me offline. No, my power went out. They didn't like what I had to say. They tried to silence me. No, my power went out. I mean, potential is one way of looking at it, but like, I need you to hold still, friend. I said. What? I feel like this is gonna end with me like raging at grenades. Leave me alone. All right. Victory is bide. Yeah, 100% Rodrigo, basically like that, yeah. Hey, Rodrigo, that's essentially it at home. It's like all of the maps are just cool, like set piece locations that have you can go around and walk around and take pictures. It's like a safari. Ah yes, the Masked Man ass stream is back. Hey Vinny, how's it going? Thanks Vinny, appreciate it. I mean, this is working pretty well, I will admit. It does involve us like chucking like 5 grenades at a time, but it's working pretty well. So, Cat Warboss, what I mean by depth is that, like, for example, when you go to streets, all you do is walk around the streets, right? You're not going to a location on that map. You're not exploring a site. You're just walking around, looting containers, killing things, and then leaving. As opposed, for example, I love to use the example of customs on Tarkov, right? So for example, customs has a few different locations. It has, you know, the dorms. It has customs, like the actual customs area, like the customs warehouse. It has the construction site. It has the bunch of the warehouses on one side, right? And each of those have their own trade-offs and risks and reward, and certain quests will be there, right? And so, like, I'm not just going to customs to walk around those and leave. I'm going to customs to go to one of those locations and explore and loot and do things. And it means that when I go to a map, it can play differently between where I'm going to and where I'm leaving to, right? Like, it creates different pathways and branches of how I move about the map with what tasks I'm trying to do, that all each have their own varying levels of risk and reward. And it is, I will say, it is much easier to make that risk and reward when you have a PvP game, because all you need to do is add good loot to an area to make it risky. So like it is harder for the PvP game. I'm not saying it's easy for them to do this, but I think it's necessary for to have a true and genuine extraction shooter, if that is their aim and goal, which it might not be. Maybe they just used the buzzword and didn't really mean it in that way. If they want a true and good extraction shooter, I think they really have to try and solve that issue, in my opinion, with the level design. Because I can tell you right now, Stairway ain't fucking it. Oh, hold on, I'm putting up, don't worry, just give me a second. Ow, stop it. Hold on. I said hold on. Yeah. Grenade's a little awkward. Yeah, so in relation to other maps, Frozen Swamp to me is like the only S tier map, but in the grand scheme of things, I would consider Frozen Swamp a very mediocre extraction shooter map, but it is kind of the only extraction shooter map in the game, in my opinion. I do not think any other of these maps, like Mesa, if Frozen Swamp is a mediocre extraction shooter map, Ashen Mesa is a bad one. But because they're the only ones in this game, it elevates them to A and S tier. Okay, grenades. Maybe we just brought the wrong grenades. Hold on, let's try this again. Take two. Maybe it was just the wrong version of the grenades. Because, like, the injector site, all the locations on Frozen Swamp do help it out a lot, but there's still this kind of, like, the risk-reward dynamic really isn't still there yet. And even, like, the locations are good, but they're not that deep, to be quite frank. I will bring it back up though, just in case. We'll bring a gun that we really do not want to use, so like it is very clear it's a backup. Like we don't want to use a P90 if we can help it, but if we have to, we can. No, so quests are not the way how you inject meaning to areas. It's how you provide incentives for people to go there who might otherwise not. So for example, right, like when I have no other goals in Tarkov, I will try and play a pretty ratty style of like moving about maps. If I go through a map in Tarkov and don't kill anyone, if I don't need to, I'm okay with that. I'm okay to like just loot around and like salvage and go on and so forth, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Now, the quests are how you get me to break from that paradigm, right? You get me to do things outside of my comfort zone, or things I wouldn't normally do. So for example, like I would, you know, go, like for example, there's plenty of quests on customs that will say, hey, go to dorms and kill someone, or go to dorms and do X, Y, and Z. And so that gives me a reason to go to dorms. Like there's a shotgun quest on customs, right, where it says like, you know, go kill PMCs with a shotgun in dorms. Like, all right, sure, fuck it, it's ball. And so I'll abandon the rat play style for there, right? Because it you know, incentivizes me to go out of that area, or out of that like gameplay loop I'm usually in. And you can do the same thing with quests too, right? In this game is like, you know, there might be areas in the game, or like for example, if you use quests as ways of changing how like a certain location works, right? Like they currently do that with the sewer area on downtown, right? With the water thief guy, is you can only get to that location once you have a certain quest. And so you can change like how certain locations work based off certain quests. Now I don't think the quest structure of this game really works all that well, considering they're all repeatable. But like if they had like one-off, or like maybe like quests that didn't had like long quest chains perhaps that maybe are repeatable, but it's not like spammable, right? You can have things that change. Or for example, theaters of war, right? For example, changing how locations work in theaters of war. So for example, like let's say for example there's a quest that says, let's say for example the police station on downtown was an actual area, and it was an area that for the most part it is borderline suicidal for you to try and go into the police station. The areas inside the police station are like, you know, very well guarded. There's the alternate entrances aren't open, and so on and so forth, right? And so like, you know that you should, like, the area of the police station's high risk, high reward. It's almost suicidal risk, high reward. And so it's a chase item for maybe like really skilled players who want to go there. However, you do quest change, you do things where like, you know, players can learn that under certain circumstances, theaters of war wise, there may be windows to get into the police station. And say, for example, there's a quest chain to maybe like even force that, right? Where the quest chain doesn't necessarily immediately impact the police station, but it might push theaters of war to a certain percentage where the police station has some gaps and openings, and here on, you know, here on and there forth, right? So say for example, like when Europa has less than 25% of the police, or of downtown, for example, right? Police station has some weird things going on, where for example maybe a few entrances aren't guarded, or like you contextualize it too, right? Like maybe for example when Europa controls it, they you know, only certain entrances are open, so on and so forth. Like you can do so much depth. Where the fuck? No. I'm having fun with grenades and you're ruining my fun, Mr. Doug. Go away. I need to escape. And Rodney, that's the whole part of depth too, right? Is like the quests are so pigeonholed by like the actual like depth of the maps. I wouldn't be surprised, Survivor, if they do that. Considering multi-raid was talked about in Tarkov forever, it's gotta be in their minds. Yeah, my stuff. I don't think I get the grenades back, do I? I think that's more of an if not when, Survivor. Considering, like, I still hear the dog. Or I hear the music for the dog. Yep. Battling, why you don't battle? Stop it. Oh my god, the world's longest fucking stand-up. So, if you haven't learned thus far, you're learning why I just never use grenades. It's so much easier just to shoot things. Alright, no more granadas. We're just gonna go murder them because it's so much easier. But yeah, Survivor, I think it's an if, not when. The exact implementation we'll have to see, but like, I'm sure we're gonna see multi-raid. At the very least multi-raid, at the maybe the most we'll see actually like full titles and stuff like that. It was, I mean, it was the biggest talking point in Tarkov for fucking ever, so like, I imagine that's in their minds. You know what's good in stun locking though, Rod and Meat? Just headshots. And the problem is, Rod, like, as you probably saw lots of the times there, the enemies have to stand still for a very long time as you both line up, lob, and have the grenade land. There's a lot of hoops to jump through to make grenades actually work. And sure, when they work, they work well, but it's a lot of hoops to jump through.
Wake up, rinse and repeat. Stay alive.
Alright, time for just easy murder time.
This is it. We decide what happens next.
Basically, J-Pog, 100%. Please stand still while I throw this grenade at you, and do not move when it lands. I need you to be perfectly still.
Everyone for themselves.
And if you manage to survive, please stand still again while I throw another grenade at you. See how much easier that was? Just gunning down two people in the water. Well, Survivor, that's getting into performance considerations, right? Like, part of the reasons why there aren't fights going on everywhere is because of performance. Like, yeah, it would be cool, right? But at the same time, yeah, just not very performative right now. They've talked about effects like that, Blood, so once again, it seems like a when, not if. These fucking trees. Why do you block bullets? And are also everywhere. By the way, if you're ever on Frozen Swamp and wondering where the fuck your bullets are going, Introducing the tree eater. It eats bullets, like, really fucking well. Like, case in point.
Check those corners.
No problem. Yeah, I remember that part taking me a while to find too. It is like literally just a loose item on top of a fucking crate. At least for the one I found. Yeah, I mean, how long was MSG5 in development for though? By a way bigger team. No, you can kill brawlers. Just headshot them basically though. They're pretty tanky. Like if they're very resilient versus shotguns, if I recall correctly. But headshots still take them down pretty quick.
I think they spotted us. That's it for
But no, yeah, like they have, yeah, takes a while. Yeah, they didn't even do the Act 3. Oh, grenade launchers are weird. Grenade launchers are weird. There's a bug where the grenade, so, hold on. So there's a bug, so like grenades are split into two parts of damage, right? Grenades have impact damage, and then grenades have their actual explosive damage. And they're loaded in such a way where the explosive is the bulk of the damage. It's a 10k explosive damage and then 1k impact. And the 10k will taper off at distance. Now, there's a bug where like sometimes the explosive damage just won't proc. Like you'll shoot a grenade, it will explode, and nothing nearby will take damage. And that's just a bug. All you can really do is just fire more grenades and hope they actually proc. That or just go for a direct impact. I mean, they're not just 1 year in though. They're 1 year into early access. This is probably their second to this is I think they said they were 2 years in development before this. So this is their 3rd year. It's between 2 and 3 years, depending on like how long they were building this game before and for. I think it was 2 years if I recall correctly. And don't get me wrong, software development is painfully slow. It is what it is, right? It's a complicated beast. I mean, Rodrigo, to be fair, like I think early on there was a lot of them experimenting, because like they've talked about before in Q&As, right, of like having a much bigger open world and like, you know, having a lot more stuff going on, but like it just wasn't performative. You see how much easier that was just gunning everything down? I think J-Pog, the only problem with that though is now this is a difference of opinion, right? What I think you're describing is a very cool bespoke sort of event that like would have a place in like a D&D game, right? From a DM, right? Because you can just do it off the cuff. Like you have this very dynamic quest that has like, it's very interesting, right? But like in the grand scheme of things in a replayable game, like when I see specific things like that, it's a bit too tailored almost, right? It's a bit too specific. And once again, difference of opinion, right? I prefer much more emergent things. I would rather design systems and have things happen from those systems existing rather than designing highly bespoke, cool things, don't get me wrong, very cool things, but things that are like essentially like lightning in a bottle, right? Like they're very bespoke, they're very tailored, they're very scripted. You do them once and like there's not a lot of differences between it. And like to be fair, J-Poc too, I kind of feel like they're leaning into what you're saying a lot more, at least what I've seen thus far. No, I can easily be wrong. We'll have to see. Like once, I think, was it Rodrigo or someone else said in chat, like, you know, we haven't seen a big giant patch yet full of like any system rework, so if that ever happens, we'll see if any of that's, you know, changed. Yeah, I've noticed that crows are unkillable, yeah. Blood, it sounds like you're asking for more, ground choppers. Blood's a big fan of having choppers just go into the ground. That's such a weird bug to have. I guess it's a pathfinding issue. I feel like once again, I've not done pathfinding in UE5. So I'm guessing the way it does auto-generates like off your terrain, like a pathfinding area for the AI to work with. Can they just not configure like a 3D box for pathfinding that they can assign choppers to, or does that just break it? I genuinely have no idea about UE5 pathfinding, so like I will probably sound super fucking like super ignorant right now. But like, can you just not create like a pathfinding space, like a 3D pathfinding space, like a box for the choppers to move through, and not have them use the ground pathfinding? Or maybe they are doing that. It's just still ignoring that though and going to the ground one. Maybe they do literally have a box for chopper pathfinding, and it's ignoring that and going to the fucking ground. Listen, the chopper yearns for the floor. Leave me alone. I said leave me alone. I believe that's supposed to stop certain drones from spawning, if I recall correctly. If you're talking about the Mesa one on the bunker in the front right-hand side, if you spawn at bunker, then yeah, I think it's like a drone one. Uh-oh, time to leave. No problem.
Everyone for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have... The whole cover thing, I can definitely... Well, cover is cool and all. In a weird way, I can be very fine with the idea of enemies is not taking cover, as long as they still behave like pretty well outside of like cover, right? Because cover gets I feel like cover is one of those things, right, where if you have the idea of wanting your NPCs to take cover, it's kind of a thing you need to decide at the start, because all of your levels, I feel like, need to be designed around that. It's not really, I think, something you can easily just add in later, I feel like.
We might make it.
And so, like, I'm kind of weirdly okay with, like, enemies not taking cover, as long as they behave well otherwise. Because cover gets complicated, right? Like, I mentioned this to someone, I got into, like, an argument with someone on Discord before. I was trying to make them understand the scope of what they were asking, because they weren't understanding that, like, just because you can add AIs, or just because you can spawn enemies in like Gary's mod that use cover, doesn't mean it's that fucking simple. Like, there was tons of work done on Source and the AI in Source by plenty of very talented engineers at Valve to get the AI to that point, and you don't know how long it took them. You also don't know how well Source is programmed, as opposed to UE5 2. So, like, it's vastly different scenarios, and, like, it's always this big thing with feedback, too, is, like, it's personally why I lean much more on the philosophical / like, high-level, like, critiques as opposed to granular design, or, like, I don't genuinely like saying add X, Y, and Z, because add X, Y, and Z is kind of ignorant to their systems, and not like you would know, right? But, like, you can't comprehend how hard of an ask adding something to their game is when you have no idea of their code base. Whoops. Time to leave. Or their systems, right? Or whatever they have, whatever tools they've made for themselves, right? Oh my fucking god. How many more shotgun shells can you take? I'm leaving. Fuck you all. Have fun. I said I'm leaving, not cut me out with the EODs. I mean, yeah, Rodrigo, in a perfect world, right, or in a world, right, they get this game to 1.0, they do a few patches, and they go on to the next project, because they get a new fresh start with a new project, right, with a new code base, and hopefully just, like, lessons learned. Well, I never want to, like, come off, too, like, JPOG, giving ideas is fun, right? And they've even asked for it, too, right? So, like, I can't fault people for giving ideas or giving system ideas, right? Like, I mean, I won't say who, but Water 3.0, the idea behind Water 3.0 didn't come from Fundog, it came from someone else. It's not me. It's not me. I'm not sure if this person would want me to share this, so I'm not going to say who it is. Because I don't want to get, I do not want, like, I don't want anyone going to them on Discord and saying, hey, your system sucks, or anything like that, so I won't say who it was. But, like Water 3.0 was an idea from one of the people in the Discord. It wasn't from me, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't apparently their idea. And so they do seem receptive to actual factual ideas from the community. At least from ones they trust, I guess. So, like, that's a different paradigm from, like, I have always been told by game devs, is like, we don't really want to, like, they don't, when you say add, like, X gun or add X, Y, and Z, that doesn't really give them a lot of help, right? It's more because you just don't want to tell game devs what, like, how to do their job, right? Like, give them the pain points and they will figure out in their engine, in their game, in their design, how they want to fix it. If they want to fix it. No, MK, but on that note, right, like, that's the whole consideration too, right, of, like, knowing your resources, I feel like. Like, listen, I'm not a fucking game dev, but I am a fucking business student, if you want to get into the fucking particulars of professional degrees. Like, you can critique me for not being a game dev, you can critique me for, like, not saying I know UE5, that's fucking perfectly fair. But you can't just say I'm only a fucking streamer, because I'm not only a fucking streamer. I'm getting, basically, not an MBA. Yeah, it's not an MBA exactly, but I do know business. I do know management, if you want to get into the particulars. I'm not a manager, I would never fucking, I would never do that type of management. But, like, organizing things, project management, fuck yeah. But, like, also feel like that's also, like, a very, like, it's an understandable clash, too, because, like I said, these guys are from ex-AAA games, right? So, like, or ex-AAA devs. So, like, they've had nothing but probably people, like me, I would guess, like, more systemic people, telling them what to do or telling them how to do things. So I'm sure they're very fucking tired of it at this point, and they want to do their own thing. Perfectly fair. You know, sink or swim by your own merit, I guess. have 71 APC9 Pros, my god. I will not miss any of you. Brother, you do not know fucking, you cannot comprehend how much I fucking love Excel. I genuinely enjoy working with Excel. I'm sure some of you are probably like cringing right now. Yeah, that works. We haven't done Scorch Enclave yet. We've done, I think, every map except, we didn't Scrapyard Nexus either. We'll do a Scrapyard. Oh, MK, no, that bridge is burned.
Hard to breathe up here.
I wasn't the one who set it on fire, but I definitely watched it burn and let it burn.
Eyes on us. Spread out.
I can't get into particulars, Benjamin. I am under an NDA, so I'm not sure what I can share and what I can't share. No. It was the most silent bridge burning of all time, as is custom. It was perfectly on brand. Oh, the best way I'll phrase it, J-Poc, while being as vague as possible, is that, I would say, I'd be very careful with my words here. There might have been misunderstandings, but considering that I have an NDA signed, I would just say it was how it was handled or how it felt was insanely unprofessional, in my opinion. I have former colleagues who I did not get along with. If I send them an email or talk to them, they will reply back within the day, if not sooner. I'm not saying I was ghosted, but I'm definitely saying the communication was absolute fucking ass and unprofessional. And like, that's kind of where I get the whole vibes of, if they just want to write me off as a streamer content creator, that's fine. That's okay. I feel like you can say that though. I can understand, and I can understand the reservations, but like in the sense of like, hey, just if you're honest and transparent with me, you can say whatever the fuck you want, and I'll basically be okay with it. I don't think there's ever been a time when like anyone's been in chat and I've ever been like, yeah, I can understand your perspective, or like I can agree to disagree with you. There's been like maybe an instance or two where someone's been like very belligerent, and I'll get kind of angry with them, but I won't just like kick him out or shut him down or say like fuck you. I'll still engage in dialogue with them. Oh, 100% Cat War boss. Chris Roberts, the king of scope creep. But no, it's peak fun dog. Just an utter lack of communication.
This is it. We decide what happens next.
And like a disregard for its importance, to be quite frank. So scope creep, so JPOC, scope creep in the well screen, like it's like, say for example, you're making a table. So like, you know, you do the design of the table, JPOC, and you say this table's gonna have 4 legs and a top, and that's gonna be the table, right? And then like, say for example, you're halfway making the table, and suddenly you decide to add in like swiveling parts that expand the table out. That is scope creep. Essentially, it's additions onto the original project that are added to the foundational project. And like, it doesn't mean that scope creep is necessarily inherently bad, but like, if you keep tacking and adding things on, it can start becoming an issue, right? So say for example, like on this table analogy, right, this table metaphor, you know, you add in these swivel little extra joints to expand the table, but you didn't consider the extra weight that adds. So now you need to go back and actually fix the foundations, the actual like 4 pillars of the table, right? Because you didn't consider the extra weight during the scope creep moment. You can kind of see like how it causes issues, right? It becomes very cyclical when you're not very careful. And when you get to very complicated projects, like even small changes can have drastic effects if you don't take into consideration like hidden factors. It's why, for example, like when people say like add X, Y, and Z, other games have X, Y, and Z, it's easy. That's not genuinely true. You don't know what considerations they might have to have with their code base or whatever they're building, right? And then Chris Roberts is the king of it, right? Because Chris Roberts is a creative, and the problem is he can't be in a position of authority because he's not going to control himself with new things he wants added. So like, you know, he'll create a space game and just keep adding more content to the actual design of the game, but never, like, he'll keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, and so you're never gonna finish the product. It's why, for example, like so much time is spent early on in projects figuring out requirements, is because when, like, say for example, it's a client and a business, you know, they're 2 different entities, it's not internal, you know, the client wants the product they want made, right? Otherwise they wouldn't buy it. But also the company making it doesn't want to be on the hook for things outside the intended requirements, right? Like, so back to the table analogy, right? You know, if you have a company that says, I will make you a table for, you know, $10, and the client agrees, the client just can't come back and say, hey, let's add some swivel joints to the table so I can expand it if I want to. It's like, no, that's extra cost, that's extra money, that doesn't, you know, that doesn't work. The maker can push back on that. And there might be requirements for, you know, for a certain amount of scope creep too, right? Or a certain amount of changes. And now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of, like, yeah, just business. And it's not even software design at this point, just lots of different things work like this. Star Citizen, the original backing was in 2012, I think, maybe 2010, somewhere around there. So we're more like 15-ish years, somewhere around there. Oh no, yeah, and the thing is too, right? Like, for example, sometimes the client might also deliver a product that doesn't actually meet the requirements either, or like, you know, you might have arguments about if it meets the requirements. I've had projects delayed for an entire year or 2 because the client didn't like that final product, and like apparently they would. I wasn't sure about that. I'm never in the meeting like that high level, right? But like, there was a clear thing that, you know, the client did not like the product that was delivered, so it was like, you know, all right, we'll go back and rework this, and it was another like year or 2 added to the project. Because like, when you get to software, right, when you get to very complicated software systems, that's the time span we're working on. You know, not a year, we're talking about years of development. For something that might seem very simple, right? Like the client, all they might end up seeing is the GUI. The GUI being basically the front end. Like what we're seeing right now is like the GUI. Like this GUI. If you interact with it as a user, it's the GUI. Oh, 100%. I know there's been a few posts on the Discord, or not the Discord, but the subreddit, right? Of like, hey, Like, my dad backed this and he's dead now, so what the fuck happens? It's been so long, people have started dying who backed it originally. Of just, like, old age, not just, like, of, like, a random accident, right? Of actual, factual old age. Good old mask man butt. Absolutely beautiful.
Eyes on us.
On my mask man book? Oh, on Star Citizen? Oh, yeah. I mean, you can sell ships on Star Citizen through third parties if you really want. You can go to the gray market if you so desire.
Ants won't stop shaking. Must not be a good sign.
And then you got JBog 2, for example, you'll have instances also, right, where if the client's, like, the client has to be careful too, right, because, like, sometimes, like, you know, if a certain company, like, I'm not saying all companies operate this, right, but if a certain company can feel like they can weasel their way into, like, a very, like, generic or very easy requirements too, right, they might ship you a product that barely works, but does it in the way it actually meets the requirements of the project, so they're contractually, like, you know, doing their job, but they're not just, they're kind of, you know, a little bit disingenuous. Heisenberg? Heisenberg. Let's do some quests too. We're gonna go to downtown, I think. I think we had to kill Exos for that. Alright, sewer plans. These are just in the open, if I recall correctly. Oh no, I've had many fun talks before of like this is a fucking change. I mean, like at a certain point though, it wasn't worth, like, it was just adding a few extra data points to a few table or a few reports. So it was no big deal, because like the data was already there, it just needed to be pulled in. But like, yeah, there's lots of changes still. All right, you're there, you're there. It is always fun to get late changes though. My favorite though is that, like, in the most recent project I worked on before I quit, is that, like, I was, like, there was a big like thing to do for the client, like a big, like a thing that would take a decent amount of time to do, and then, like, but we were waiting on the database, waiting on the database, and it got to the point where we were, I think, like 3 months before go live, before I could genuinely test the product to see if it worked, because we were always using test data. Like, it worked with test data, right? But test data is never live data, or like the actual database data. And naturally, when we actually finally got database data, I was like, yeah, this is wrong. I need to fix a few things here and there. And that means I had to start working weekends for a bit. That's always fun. Now, that's the trade-off though too, right? Like, as I mentioned before, right? Like, this was at the tail end of the project, so like the tail end of the project was like 80 hours a week, but like the beginning of the project or before the project was like, you know, 20 hours a week. So like, it's just sometimes software dev, where sometimes you don't have enough to do and sometimes you have too much to do. All right, Psycho Killer. All right. And the problem is too, is that data load was weekly, so it would only ever happen on a, like, I think on a Saturday. It would happen Saturday morning. So like, if I wanted to like give myself enough like ahead time to work on things before the, like, before it got sent off to the client to test and review, because like, it was essentially, it would like, data would be loaded Saturday. I would run my report Saturday. I would check to see if it was working. I would fix a few things, and it would be sent out to Monday for the client for like pre-review before, you know, go live. So like, if I needed to fix anything, it needed to be done on the weekend basically before they saw it Monday. So like, no matter what, it was just like, you're working the weekend. I was like, all right, whatever. Michael, I am. I had power outage like halfway in between, so like, I'm just continuing off that. So like, we like lost like 2 hours of the middle stream, I think. Maybe like only an hour, but still.
I think they spotted us.
Leave me alone. Yeah, that's what it is. Rodrigo, the funniest thing fucking though for me actually though, was like when we got to go live weekend, we're a full remote team. Like, we're not full remote, but like me and like the people working on what I was working on, leave me alone. We're full remote, and like, and one of the managers was like, you know, come to city X, Y, and Z for go live. I'm like, no. You're like, you didn't even send me like anything but like, you know, travel arrangements or plans or like compensation. It was just like, you know, you need to be here for X weekend, for go live. I'm like, why? Like, whatever I can do there, I can do at my house better. I'm not going mobile just for you. I need to leave. And thankfully, it was one of those things, right, where like I never used my no equity before. Like, I worked weekends, I didn't complain. I worked everything else, I didn't complain. So like the one moment I was like actually able to say no worked out perfectly. Yeah, no, like, and it was like for at least a week. I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. But like, he never mentioned travel arrangements or pay. Like, he never did any of the groundwork to be like, okay, like, at least he's showing that he, like, you know, he understands it's inconvenient for me. Like, he's the groundwork of saying, like, you know, hotel X, Y, and Z, you'll get compensated. And like, I looked at like the per diem of my company, it was ass. It was so bad. Like, if it was a pretty good per diem, I'd be like, okay, I'm kind of enticed, because a good per diem is actually like kind of enticing. It was a very bad, I think it wasn't even per diem, it was actually like, I need to get receipts and then get refunded. So it was like the worst part of travel. It's like, I'm not gonna go down to city X, Y, and Z out of your volition for no fucking reasons. It would just make me a worse worker on my own dime until I get refunded. That will probably be a pain in the ass. Yeah, maybe get refunded.
Hopefully it forgets us.
Hi, Toothy.
And we can escape.
Having fun there?
Whittle them down and we can break out.
Alright. I mean, if it was a per diem, my previous company before that had a per diem, right? And I was like, if it's a per diem, I'm on board, right? Like, per diem is like in the sense of like, we understand traveling's a bitch, so here's X amount of money a day, do what the fuck you want with it. For those unfamiliar with per diems basically just means that the company gives you X amount of dollars a day for when you're traveling. For food, for expenses, and so on and so forth, right? Yeah, like MK, exactly, which is like basically I use all my equity to say no there. I was like, I'm not doing that. If you want to make this a big deal, you can escalate it to like an even higher level manager than you are. But I don't think they're gonna take your side. And he didn't escalate it because it wasn't worth his equity either. Alright, if I recall correctly, Shifting Tide Part 3 is just in the open. Oh, Jetpack, that's a huge part of software though too, right? Or just a general thing, right? Is like figuring out what the client needs and wants from like talking to them. 100%. There's literally there are literally specialists who are like that. It is their job is to go talk to clients and figure out like what they need and what that translates into.
Don't miss. Make every shot count.
Oh, 100%, Mr. Doggo, 100%. and in a weird, twisted way, you know, you can point that at us too, right? You could say us, the clients, don't know what we want, or what we're talking about. That Fun Dog could take that approach. That is fair.
Everyone for themselves.
I mean, personally, I would pride myself on, I think I can identify most of my pain points. There are a few things I can, that I will like preface by saying is like, I don't genuinely know if this is how I feel about it because of X, Y, and Z. But there's lots of things where I think I kind of do. Because like, a big thing too, right, is like, you know, when a user complains about a certain like, you know, software piece of work, right, is it truly because of what they're saying, or is it because of another reason, right? That they either can't quantify or describe, or just because they don't want to say, you know, say for example, if someone doesn't want to hurt your feelings, right? And like, so they'll say that like, as opposed to saying a piece of work is bad, they might say something like it's not up to spec or something like that, right?
One standing.
At this point, you could say 8 years, but like I'm getting my master's right now, so it's kind of like a hiatus. Speaking of that, while we're here, actually, no Friday stream because school is starting this Friday, and I have a few things to do on Friday. Actually, when I say things to do, I mean I'm literally not gonna be home all Friday, so no stream Friday. Other than that, like, my schedule for class should be perfectly fine with the stream schedule. If not, I'll let you guys know and change it here and there, but it should still be perfectly fine. 3 days a week. No issues at all. There might be occasional spatterings of, like, for example, of, like, change schedules here and there. Alright, if I recall correctly, this is just in this one of these rooms here. I mean, not still going to school. I went back to school. I quit my job in fall of last year to go get my master's. I could have done it online too, but online's 2 years as opposed to 1, so I just figured I'd just go back, take a year class, or take 1 year of classes, then get back into the job market. Also, like, I've heard too, I haven't experienced it directly yet, I've heard online classes are very, what's the right word? Very, like, invasive now, just because of how easy it is to cheat online. And at that point, I'd rather just do it in person and not have to have like constant screen monitoring and shit on my computer, because that doesn't really vibe with me at all. Like, sorry, not sorry, Purdue, or the fucker company, or that name is of that company. I really don't want you to have access to my machine like that. I already fucking hated having Citrix having access like it did. But Citrix is a little bit different, I guess. It's mainly just a VMware. I mean, at a certain point, I feel like a doctorate's usually overkill unless you want to be like a professor, I feel. Like, unless you want to teach at a high level, I feel like a doctorate's overkill. Alright, there's more buildings could maybe be in. Okay, I'm not sure if I follow. Can you elaborate, please? Whoosh. Go away. Are you in here? Explosives. Oh yeah, I could definitely see the whole overqualified thing game shit 100%. Alright, the game definitely told me there not to shoot. I can't recall where the shifting tide. I think it was in the previous building we're in. Maybe we just missed it. Did I shoot in the ceiling there? What is going on? There we go. Oh my god. Invisible walls, I guess. That was weird. Yeah, I mean, I see plenty of, like, job openings for masters. I don't see a lot of job openings for doctorates. Naturally, it's inclusive, right? Like, I imagine, like, if you have a master's, you can probably apply for the position when you have a doctorate. But it does feel like this vein of overkill.
Getting there. Slowly but surely. Getting something at least.
I mean, to be perfectly fair, I'm not generally someone who keeps games like that in my headspace. Like, I don't really have a wish list. I don't keep games on my wish list, really. Except if they're, like, not out yet. Like, I have, what's that, like, the Frontier game, the space game on my wish list, right? But, like, I use a wish list as, like, a means of, like, hey, this game's coming out in the future. If it's already out, I'm the one to buy it, basically, to be honest. If I was interested in it and it was an early access, there would be, like, no shot I wouldn't try it out. And if it doesn't fit that criteria, I just wouldn't follow it at all, to be honest. And like, and the whole thing MK in the sense of like, I wouldn't really, if I was still like following the game, I don't think, unless it literally blew up on YouTube, I don't think I would hear about it, to be honest. Like, think of how many different games probably have similar issues to this one, or like have their own bespoke issues that you just don't know about because you don't follow them. Case in point with this game, right, is like the only reason why I know so much about the issues of the game is because I actually play it consistently and like follow the community and play the community, right? If I wasn't engaged with that community, I would never know the issues the game has. And the origin I'm in that community in the first place is because I play the game. Same thing with like Dune Spice Wars, right? Like I used to play Dune Spice Wars a lot. I streamed that game for a bit. I couldn't tell you what the fucking meta is now. I couldn't tell you what issues the game has. I can tell you what it did have before, but maybe those still exist, but like this would be like a year plus old info. Alright, we haven't done Scorched yet. We have to do a Scorched. Yeah, wish list is a useful feature, but like I'm usually that not like I'm the type of person where like I don't want a lot, but when I want something, I will generally just purchase it. The safety lever being that I don't generally buy much stuff at all.
Gotta keep a record in the event of my death.
Like that's the secret of me not spending money on everything is I just don't usually, like if I'm not interested in it, I won't buy it. I'm not interested in a whole lot, to be quite frank. But like when I am, I will spend money on it because, yeah. Hello, false idol. No, I haven't. Ever since like the only time I sailed the high seas is when I was like I was young and didn't have a job.
Make every shot count.
So like I haven't sailed the high seas in forever. I generally hold the opinion, like, and this is my own personal opinion, so like you do whatever the fuck you want. If like considering I've come from software, right? Like I know how much time and effort and money is spent on shit like this. So like, yeah, I'm gonna give you money for this product. And like, hey, if I don't like it, I can refund it. But like, if you like, you know, for example, right? The reason why I don't buy Funcom games, or why, for example, if I do buy them and try them out, I make sure to refund them within the 2-hour window, is because I do not trust Funcom. Like, I played Age of Conan, and Age of Conan was a rug pull, and so I just do not trust Funcom now. And you can sail the high seas to get there too, right? But like, I would much rather prefer and engage in good faith capitalism and give a company money for their product, and then if their product is shit, blacklist them basically mentally, and saying, hey, you make a shoddy product, you got my money once, and you know I tried to refund it, or you know X, Y, and Z, I had it for too long, whatever, but like you're never gonna get my money again. So like, sure, you got a flash in the pan, you know, influx of cash, but in the grand scheme of things, you will eventually fail. Fucking look at Ubisoft right now, right? My god. I haven't bought a fucking Ubisoft game in ages. I mean, Mr. Dog, it's perfectly fair. I mean, there's a delineation here, right? I think, God, am I using that word correctly? I need to look that word up again. I think it's the second time I said this in the stream, but I'm not. I think I know the meaning, but I'm also like doubt it. So like, this might be the wrong word of the use. This might be the wrong use of the word delineation. That like, just because like, yeah, like, it's perfectly fair for you to like see BF6 and be not interested too, right? But I do think BF6 isn't. I think BF6 is fixable by community servers, and I would not sign onto the game otherwise. I think at its core, it's a perfectly fine game. I don't like it's very well done in regards to like animations and so on and so forth. It's got plenty of issues, don't get me wrong, but it's none of these issues that are like seem foundational to the nature of the game. The only one I would really highlight as foundational is there's a lot of what I would say animations missing from Battlefield 6 that slow down the game a bit. Like when you can spam entering and exit a tank within a second and have like no animations to play to slow you down, yeah, it feels like Call of Duty. The other thing is too is the maps, but like I heard that the maps in the open beta were literally the smallest maps in the game, so we'll have to see.
Don't miss. Make every shot count.
But I can definitely understand you're like, you know, I've definitely gotten to the point where there's plenty of those more mainstream games where I'm like, this game's probably not bad, but it's not for me. Like, am I going to invalidate all of these young kids who are like Fortnite's fucking amazing just because I don't like it. I mean, clearly it's doing something right? I have not seen the map better yet, Blood, no. Have they actually shown a like image of it?
Every shot counts.
Or rather, I guess a video of it? Yeah, 100% then, like, that's like, and I feel like that's the approach too, right? Like, when you're, in a weird way, when you're, like, making a mainstream game, does that not make sense though, right? It's like, you're gonna appeal to a much broader audience if you, like, let them... It's this weird paradigm that, like, I feel like a lot of game companies have forgotten recently. Do you know how many people spent their livelihoods in, like, 1.6 and Source because of community servers with different modes? Like, do you understand how powerful having that functionality built into your game is? Like, literally, look, I hate using this example, but literally look at fucking Roblox. I despise Roblox because it's predatory on children. But, or like, the model is there, it works. Letting people create games within your games works. Giving them the control to tailor the game as they see fit works. Fucking in Call of Duty back in the day, right? I would play realism mods back in like OG Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 2. There was like plenty of like mods for the game where you would have like basically not it wasn't milsim because I mean it's Call of fucking Duty still at the engine level. But like you can make it more realistic and more cinematic and so on. So well, not cinematic per se, but more realistic.
Damn, close call. On a day of close call.
All right, that's it for everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for rejoining me after my power outage. I'll be back on Wednesday, but once again, no Friday stream this week because I will be out. Other than that, video in the works. It's in the works. It's not a forever winter video. I'm hoping it does well because it would mean that, you know, wider audience, but we'll see. I'm actually kind of excited for this video, but at the same time, the script's taking me for a while because I want to make sure it's well done. Other than that, I will see you guys later. Take it easy. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye all.